need to get your consent about the recording because like this will be recorded. I need to get your consent whether you consent to being recorded. So if you want,
CG consent.
okay, CG consents, OOCO. I need your voice consent, like so that I'm sure that you heard and you consented. Yes.
No consent, we have no problem.
Okay, cool. OG.
Oh,
And
Yeah, OG as well.
okay, that is fine. Um. Okay. I guess. Okay, cool. Let me just send the motion so that we can heart moving. So yeah, the motion for the open quarterfinals reads: An omnisphere is a magical orb that grants its owner a form of foresight. Anyone holding it will continuously experience insights relating to significant events in their future, based on them continuing their present actions, plans, and goals. If the user consciously changes their actions based on the insights, they will update to reflect the new outcome of the owner's actions. This house will pick up the omnisphere. That is the motion. For my panelists, please, I need someone to be in charge of taking the time. Please, anybody, any volunteers? I mean, Raymond, is Raymond here? Please, can you help me like take care of the time? Anybody? Okay. I don't know if I'm taking care of it myself. I need replies. I mean, am I audible? Am I audible? Please, I need to confirm if I'm audible. Am I audible? Okay, that is fine. Okay, cool. Raymond, I guess you're the one that is in time of the recording. I think you should just do that. I'm going to time here on my own device so that we just have a good run of the debate. Like after all formalities, you can introduce yourself when you start speaking. And panelists, kindly introduce yourself now, please. You guys have not spoken since. Panelists, my panel is not non-existent. I have like 2 panelists now.
Yeah, what do? Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you, Raymond.
Yeah,
Introduce.
Sorry?
Yeah, I said you should introduce yourself.
Oh, just before I do that, sorry guys, I'm struggling terribly with the internet reception here. So it's a likelihood. I hope it's not, but my internet is pretty bad and I've not been able to hear a lot of what the chair was saying. But hopefully.
Sorry, I apologize.
Sorry, can I be heard?
Yeah, you're audible. We can hear you actually. We can hear you clearly.
Oh, all right. Having said that, hopefully it continues like this. But my name is Ray. I'll be one of your judges for the round. All the best, guys.
Okay, thank you very much, Ray. The second panelist, there's one more. Second panelist, you can introduce yourself. Just, I guess the person is not here. Or the person cannot hear me. Anyways, I guess I'm assuming I'm being heard. I guess we just move on to starting the round anyways. So for the quarterfinals, this house invites the Prime Minister to start the case for opening governments. Prime Minister, you're up.
Hi, Chair. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You are very audible.
Great, guys. So, guys, if you have a POI, just unmute yourself and put it across. I'll be able to take it. Just do not do it repetitively and unnecessarily interrupt my speech. Just give me a second. Sorry about that background noise. So the thing that I request the chair is when my time is done, I'm not exactly looking at the timer. You can unmute and let me know. So I'm looking at an external timer here, so I should also be able to finish somewhere around time. Okay, so that said, I will start in 1, 2, 3. All right, so finally, when we talk about the Omnisphere,
Speaker, what's your time? We cannot hear you. Is it only me? Can everyone confirm there's no audible?
actually have right now, because they can see that it's leading them into a better future. We'll be making 4 arguments from side OG, right? The first argument is to argue for the human mind. Yes, please.
You like immediately you started, you just went off. Like we did not hear you for like the first 10 seconds.
Well, can you
Like,
hear me now?
we can hear you now, but when yeah, if you can just restart, that would be nice.
Okay, let me restart. Okay, I will restart. I will start in 1, 2. So when we talk about having an Omnisphere, we are talking about a situation where an individual has an aid that enables them to look into the future and know what the decisions that they have making right now are going to, the impact that they're likely to cause, right? So that looks like this individual will not, if circumstances, I mean, the events in the future are going to be bad, they can change their decisions for the better. And if they think that, if they know that the decisions are good, then they will increase their efforts and actually work towards realizing that particular future. So you'll be getting 4 arguments from side OG. The first one is to tell you how the human mind works and why particularly this particular metric works better with that. Secondly, we tell you that this particular approach will help, avert unnecessary suffering in people's lives. Secondly, we'll tell you why we think that this particularly helps individuals to work with factors that are usually not within their control. Lastly, we will argue for change and tell to you why particularly this helps individuals change for the better. But before we get into the argumentation, first of all, understand that this particular metric allows individuals to actually get updates, right? So that looks like if an individual has been working their lives around particular decisions, it's not like they're doomed that for those particular actions, for those particular thoughts that they have had, then like it's end, they cannot do anything about it. Tells you that these individuals are in position to actually change their actions and therefore are able to have a better future depending on what the Omnisphere is actually talking about. But also, crucially, panel, understand that the world works with basically at large works first with the betterment of individual decisions. So that means that if we are able to demonstrate to you from side OG that there is a betterment in terms of how individuals go about their life, then that means that life generally is going to improve on the planet. So first, how the human mind works and how we think crucially this particular policy will work better with it. First of all, understand that human minds have a tendency to self-deceive themselves. This looks like one of the things that they usually deceive themselves about is the future, right? So this means that individuals have a tendency of saying that the future is bright, right? Regardless of what is happening at the moment, people tend to have some sort of consolation to just say that for some reason things will change without any particular kind of working towards how to see that change come through. Understand that by realizing this particular policy, then that brings the future close. And so individuals are able to actually understand that even this future might not be as good if at all they do not work on their present circumstances at the moment. The alternative looks like if these individuals do not actually improve their situation, actually also going to get into a future that is as bad as the present or even worse still, right? So we tell you that we think that in this particular regard, this helps improve human beings on that level. But also understand that again, the human mind has a tendency of actually allowing present pleasures to sort of take over people and what they're doing and forget about the future, right? Guys feel like going out in the bar and drinking for the night and then sleeping with someone is better than maybe some 30 years to come with which they're going to live with HIV. We tell you that again, by this particular metric, individuals are able to have the future come close to them, and so they're more likely to to double check their present actions, and therefore will forego present pleasures for the betterment of the future, and therefore again become better individuals. The second argument that you get from side OG is how we think that this crucially helps avert unnecessary suffering. Now, understand, panel, that crucially human beings, some guys, because of maybe lack of exposure, etc., but with genuine motives, tend to actually learn about life's lessons the hard way, right? This looks like individuals working hard, for instance, not being to have things like market skills or other accompanying stuff that are really necessary for an individual to generally be able to become successful. We tell you that what then this looks like, it looks like these individuals eventually learning about the wrong decisions they made the hard way, and like they then become frustrated. Why? Because they have put in the hard work, they have spent sleepless nights, but the results that they thought would come through not able to come through. We tell you that this looks like these individuals are going to be frustrated in the process, right? And therefore they're going to, get depressed or, become a narcissist, and therefore lose life's meaning, and therefore not become guys that can be able to contribute to society anymore, because they think that they tried their best but things did not work out. Tells you that this particular kind of metric helps these guys understand within that process, right? To understand that, yeah, while you're putting in the hard work, maybe while you're spending sleepless nights, there is this particular kind of concept that you've not actually worked around, and so these guys can then add on to that this particular other necessary stuff that in that regard then they are eventually supposed to indeed realize the fruits of their hard work. Understand that this is very important, because this usually some of the reasons as to why guys are not able to achieve this particular kind of progress is not exactly because of their making, but because of things like lack of exposure, mentorship, etc., which we think that if the Omnisphere is able to reflect that while you're doing this, there's still something wrong, and therefore you're not getting these results, we think they can work to correct for, and therefore, live meaningfully lives. The last thing that you get from side OG is how we think crucially this particular metric allows for working with things that we cannot change. Now, understand that there are certain stuff in life that we can work on ourselves, right? For instance, I've already talked about hard work, etc., but also things that are outside our parameters, right? Understand, though, that while those things are outside our parameters, sometimes they are as important as the things that we need to work on ourselves, right? For instance, understand things like weather, changing weather patterns, right? So if an individual is not might have certain plans, and maybe I'm going to plant these particular seeds at such a particular time, and I'll get these particular yields, etc. But if this individual reaches at that particular point, and then they plant the seeds, and then those seeds do not exactly get yields, that has ripple effects. That looks like people are going to starve, people are going to actually fail to have a particular livelihood. Why? Because of these particular things that are within outside their boundaries. Now, of course, that's just a matter of example, right? Because we know that there are things like weather forecasting, etc., that can help avert that. But you can use that analogy to understand also why there are other things that actually people cannot exactly work with, right? So for instance, in things like relationships, we know that people can try to stay around, not move on, because they think that a particular person that they're staying with is going to change, also have them on board and have a fruitful relationship. We think to the extent that this Omnisphere is able to show these particular individuals that, look, even if you do it, even if you dance on a needle, even if you do what, not be able to solve this particular kind of situation because of these other factors, then people are able to realize their own limits, and therefore work within what they can achieve. And in that regard, they will not be disappointed, but also there will be guys that are able to results that are more fulfilling. Now, on the idea of change, lastly, panel, that will be talked about by my second speaker. I thank you.
Okay. This also thanks the Prime Minister for his remarks, and welcomes the leader of opposition to start the case for opening opposition.
Please, am I audible?
Yes, Speaker, you are.
Okay. So, starting my speech in 3, 2. Okay, this is how I prefer to take my POIs. You want to ask a POI, just unmute yourself. You shoot. I might take you at the exact time that I want to talk you, or I might not take you, right? So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, like clarity in today's debate. Prime Minister messes today's debate. Notice how today's debate is just a person picking up this device that we are talking about. So Prime Minister,
Speaker, speaker. I'm very
yes,
sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm having like a kind of issue. Like someone is like calling me and is like really disrupting my network. Let me just tell the person to not call me like for the rest of the while so that it doesn't affect how I listen to you guys, please. Can I am I allowed?
okay. So should I wait for you?
Just yes,
Should I
yes,
wait for
yes,
you?
just give me. I'll notify you when like just give me like 1 minute. Okay, yes, I'm back. Sorry, you can start now. I just had to do that
Am I
to like
audible?
stop my network. Okay, so,
Am I audible?
yes, you're audible.
Okay, so starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, notice how Prime Minister like messes out of today's debate. What today's debate is that an individual picking up this device that we are talking about. So they should this device, or it's not everybody that is picking up this device. So they should come and prove that one person knowing his future, like that large impact or benefit that he preaches, right? So moving on to the biggest case that Gav could have say is that people will now be curious, but even curiosity in of itself is something that we think is bad. Panel, we say knowing your future for yourself in of itself makes life miserable for you, because the best thing that you can say is that yes, I know my future. So you tell people this is what is going to happen in my life. You tell yourself this is what is going to happen in my at a point in time you know like the future that you have for yourself is going to have like more harm on like a larger group of people in society. You cannot do anything about it. What then we say is that at the point in time where you try to tell people about your future, or even try to tell your future to yourself, you're an abnormal human being in society, because nobody is going to believe you, right? But a couple of things needs to be prioritized in today's debate. Panel, we tell you that we opposes this thing because we say let the natural order of things remain a constant in status quo. How does the natural order of things looks like? Panel, we say in life, for somebody to succeed, there is the need for somebody to fail, right? So at a point in time where they say all people know their future, and for that all people wants to succeed because they know the outcome of every action that they are taking, then what they preach is a kind of word whereby we worsen the problems that exist in status quo. Panel, notice how human beings in of themselves are selfish in status quo, that we are having natural order of things in constant. Panel, we then say everybody wants to be rich, so everybody wants to be like everybody wants to succeed at the expense of each other. Panel, notice how that is going to worsen the case in status quo. That is the conflict of what? Interest. Panel, this is something that we think is very problematic, that based on it, we do what? We opposes this medium. Life will not be worthy in the kind of world that they preach. Why this is true? This is true because we say the worth of life is being like measured or it's been known because we don't know the future. If we don't know the future, we then know that life is something that needs to be prioritized. That at every point in time, every decision that we take, we need to make like good, like decisions. We say, let people learn, and the best way for people learn in order to succeed in life is that they learn from their past experiences, their environment, the present environment that they find themselves in. We then say that at a point in time where people know their future, where somebody knows his future, it devalues life, it devalues the every it devalues the future that they are going to get.
From CG.
At a point in time where they get anything beneficial based on the their present decisions that they are taking, panel, they will not value it, they will handle it, because they know if I take a different decision, like health scatter, because they know the like the future, everything that they are doing. We say people are not always happy. People can't continuously go back to change their actions and get desired results. Panel, what this means is that because the decisions that we are making in status quo or decisions in our life have consequences on other people, we then say at a point in time where you know your future, there is no way your future is not going to have a consequence over other. So we then say the kind of word that they preach is a word that we think all the instances are in status quo. We oppose it because panel, we then say people will now have to do everything possible best in order to make sure that their future that they think they see is being materialized. POI from OG. POI.
Take CG.
POI from OG. Okay, so I resume in terrain. I resume in 3, 2, 1. Panel, it is an unsustainable medium of achieving gap, say, but we say this is an unsustainable medium because positive decisions that people take do not reflect in the kind of they need to have, because at a point in time where you know your future based on the decisions you are taking currently, I've already analyzed to you that it is going to devalue the outcome you are going to get. This means that at every point in time, let's let human beings know what they are doing, because at a point in time where you know your future, panel, it even goes in the long run to curtail your decisions. Some decisions that you think is good for yourself, you think, yes, I know my future, so let me do this. Meanwhile, what you are actually doing will have more negative effects on society than the decision that without this device that we are talking about, you can take that will have a lesser negative effect on society. But yes, so you get future that we crave to get in today's debate. And then we say that panel, now 2 things. People should stop living in fear. Life shouldn't be perfect. It is what makes it life. Panel, what needs to be prioritized is that people should stop living in fear. That is the first thing. At a point in time, we need to understand that life is not perfect. Life becomes perfect when we are able to take good decisions for ourselves without knowing the future. That is the work of life. Panel, one thing that you need to get and prioritize in today's debate is that in status quo, we say the order of things remains in status quo. People succeed at the expense of others. We say people learn based on their past experiences, the environment they find themselves in. Panel, there is no need for us to see our future before we can succeed. Notice how in status quo, a lot of people have succeeded in life without knowing their future, and we think people are still succeeding in life without knowing their future based on the kind of experiences that they have. Things like death, suffering. Panel, notice things like death, suffering should not be embraced because they are inevitable. Picking the orb is a desperate attempt to invade them. Why this is true, panel, we say the natural order of things says that every human being needs to die. Every human being needs to suffer at a point in time for other people to succeed. At a point in time, all these things, note are that all these things are inevitable. At a point in time where you say some people should pick up this device, some people should pick up this, then you create a desperate attempt to invade all these things. Panel, what then this means is that other people in society will become opposes this device, right? But panel, what needs to be prioritized in this debate, like I've already shown you, is that let the natural order of things remain. Let other people succeed based on the decisions that they make in their lives. Don't let them know the future, because it is something that people have succeeded through in status quo. Proud OO.
Okay, this house thanks the leader of opposition for his remarks and welcomes the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the case for opening government.
Can I be heard?
Yes, you are perfectly right.
Okay, so I'm setting for myself a timer as well. But for POIs, I request that for POIs you just kindly unmute yourself and raise your POI. Then I'll decide whether or not to take it. So I'm going to be starting my, just kindly give me 10 seconds to organize my speech. Just 10 seconds to organize my thought process. And okay. Okay. So I'm going to be starting in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, Pano, you need to realize that the opposition bench seems to make a few concessions that are very important for the government bench as well. They seem to be advocating for exactly what the government bench is advocating for, but under the guise of opposition. For example, we have the leader of opposition saying very interesting statements like, at every point in time, everyone should know exactly what they're doing, and we're saying yes, people should know what they're doing, and for them to be able to know exactly what they're doing, it would also involve the consequences of what they're doing now, for them to actually know the bigger picture of what exactly they're doing, so that they know that if they're smoking, they're not just smoking, they're also ruining their lungs to the point that they're going to die at a particular point in time at a particular age. They also say that people should stop living in fear, and just for saying true, people should stop living in fear. But how? We say that people should stop living in fear because they should be able to know the future. They should be able to prepare for it, so that things that they're feared about the future, this whole uncertainty of we don't know when they're going to die, we don't know how this is going to turn out, we don't know the consequences of this particular action. All of those things are moved out because they know the future, because they know the consequences of their actions. They know how certain things are going to turn out. They also say that life becomes perfect when you take good decisions for ourselves. And we are saying, yes, life does become perfect when you take good decisions for ourselves. How are we going to take that good decisions? The best way to take these good decisions is for us to know the consequences of these decisions, because we realize that for a decision to be good, we measure it on its consequences. How would we know the consequences of a decision for us to know that the decision is good? By knowing the future, looking into the future and seeing that when we do this particular action, what is going to come out of it, for us to better understand if we are in fact making a good decision, or if we are making what we think might be a good decision but actually isn't. Which leads me to the second point that we made. We made the point of averting unnecessary suffering. People may be thinking that they're making good decisions when in fact they are not making good decisions, when the decisions they're making are not going to bring the results they want. For example, we could find people that think that they're investing in a particular place and they think that it's the best decision, but then something happens, like the Ukraine-Russia war, that they did not anticipate, that they did not see coming, and their investment falls. But if a person saw the results of their actions that they're taking now, and they saw something like that, it would avert unnecessary suffering, so that they'll get to make good decisions, the very good decisions that the opposition bench is advocating for. Now, the opposition bench also makes a very grave mistake and thinks and says that that only one individual would be affected because it's only one individual picking up the orb. But we are saying that betting on who this one individual is picking up the orb, there could be a very, very magnanimous effect on not only that person, but on the whole world. Imagine if every one individual picked up this orb. Imagine if a law enforcement officer picked up this orb, and they're able to know that if they continue the investigation in this way, they'll never be able to catch the serial killer that is stalking the streets. Imagine if one person in, for example, the government was able to pick up the orb and know that the decision they're going to make on entering or interfering with a certain war zone is going to be catastrophic on them. Imagine how much impact that would be from just one individual, every one individual picking up this orb.
POI.
another argument that the opposition side makes is that knowing the future makes life miserable. We disagree with that strongly as the government, as the OG said, because they're saying knowing the future would make life even better, because people would be better able to prepare for the future, and also to change their actions so that they live a happy life, so that they get the results that they want, so that they get the fulfillment that they want in future, because they're changing their actions to get exactly the sort of results that they want in future. Also, they make an argument that the value of life is based on uncertainty, and that people would be selfish, and then it would worsen the problems you have in status quo. But then we are saying again that remember that for selfishness to happen, people must be thinking what's best for themselves. But then when you pick up this orb, you get to know the consequences of your actions. So you are being selfish, but in a way that is going to be helping the entire world. How? If someone picks up the urban, they know that the investment is going to be bad, and then they don't make a bad investment, and then they make a good investment, and their tax increases. This is helping the world. People, yes, will be selfish, but then the selfish will be benefiting from their selfishness. Essentially, this is what we are saying. A law enforcement officer will want to maybe catch a criminal, but in catching a criminal, they'll be helping the rest of the world, the general world. Such things. A person will be selfish, will want to move, will get to know that their partner is going to cheat on them, and they be selfish and they move out of their relationship. What will happen then? This person will have better mental health. They'll avoid all of the devastating effects that would have happened. This affects all arenas of life, which leads to betterment of the individual, which leads to happiness, to richness, and to a satisfying life. Better decisions, like side opening opposition is saying, a more fulfilling life. And this essentially leads to the betterment of the world, because we acknowledge that the betterment of one person, of self, is the start of the betterment of the world in general. A very big argument that we want to raise as well, on top of the ones we have already raised, aside opening government, is that it will help people to change what can be changed based on their actions. Things that they would have done, that would be detrimental to themselves and to the environment and to the society at large. They'll be able to avoid them. If someone knew that I'm cutting down these 3 trees, then when they pick up the orb, they see the devastating effects just cutting down the 3 trees is going to do. We'll be able to stop things like global warming, because people will be sure, they'll have actually seen the effect that it's going to cause in future. Right now we preach some things and people really do not get it, because they have not seen it, because these are things that happen over time, so they really do not think, they have not actually seen. There's no guarantee that that's what is going to happen, but if people have a certain guarantee that that is actually going to be the consequence, it will help them change their actions for the better, avoid pain. They'll also be able, on the other hand, if they see that the certain actions that they're doing will be rewarding, people will be able to in fact put in more effort. If someone knows that as I'm reading these notes, I'm going to be able to get these marks, but the next day when they read for 4 hours instead of the 2 they're reading before, they see that they get, instead of 62%, they get 84%. This is going to lead to betterment of people. They're going to put in more energy, more effort into the work they're doing. This is going to lead to a better person and a better world in general, because people are going to put in more energy in the good things that they're doing to get better results, and also they're going to avoid the bad things that they're doing, or they're going to avoid actions that will lead to bad consequences for themselves and things that would have been detrimental to them and to the entire society as large. Aside OG, we are very strong on the point that knowing the future is going to be what is going to help us prepare for the future better, and also make a better future for not only ourselves, as a person who picks up the orb, but also for the entire general world. Because a person gets to make the best decisions basing on a guarantee of consequence that they know is true, and also it would help people try and vary their actions to bring the results that they intend. The people would be able to, because this is a changing thing. Because just a second, round up. Just a second, round up. Because because as people try different actions at different rates, they get to have the future changing as well, because the orb keeps on changing the what would happen, the future consequences according to the current actions. So people would get to change the actions until the desired effect as desired change. That's why we, aside OG, are very glad to support.
Okay, yeah, this house thanks the leader of opposition for her speech. Note, like the moment I type time, I have stopped like writing and I've stopped taking notes of whatever you are saying. But I would allow you the civility of finishing your speech because like that's for like prestige you get. So yeah, that's just it. This house thanks the leader of opposition for her speech and welcomes the deputy prime minister to continue the case for opening up. Sorry, this house thanks the deputy prime minister for her speech and welcomes the deputy leader of opposition to continue the case for opening opposition. Deputy leader of opposition, you're up. Deputy leader of opposition. I hope you can hear me. I mean, is someone speaking and I'm not hearing? I guess Jefferson, you are. Uh, well, am I the only one that cannot hear him? Because I cannot hear him. I mean, you are not audible at all. Like, I mean, I can see your mic is on, but there's no sound coming from it. Okay, well, Jefferson, can you like kindly type in the text space so we know that you can hear us, and maybe the problem is just with the network. So, am I audible? Oh, yes, you're perfectly audible now. Yeah, thank God. All right, so I'll be taking my POIs in the test space, especially I'll be taking Eziel Johnson losing government. So prepare for that. So let's have a memorable quarterfinal. Starting my argument in 3, 2, 1. Panel. Basically, what do we get from opening government in today's debate, right? First of all, they say that we need to take up this object in order for us to know the future. And in knowing the future, human beings' life are literally going to change. One response to that. Panel, we think that not every person deserves a better future. You can't tell me that Adolf Hitler deserves a future. What this means in government's word is that the moment that you pick up this object, you then allow poor, bad people to have an incentive to even commit crimes more and more atrocities in society. What this means is that if Adolf Hitler was the one who was supposed to pick the ball, or my leader tells you that human beings are literally selfish in nature, it means that they want the acquisition of things like power. So the moment that these people see that, we have shortcuts in order for us to gain power, you then causes much atrocities and like harm other individuals by just trying to alter your future. Secondly, they say, but then we don't want people to hope. That is the reason why we want them to take up the ball. Yes, we agree with that. We think hope is a fool's is but a fool's ally, right? In the Game of Thrones, hope is fool's ally. But then we think that's the reason why people constantly call out government in terms of things like economic crisis, because they don't hope. They think that there are individuals who are responsible for what they are in now. So it means that in our world, you constantly blame people. That is the government who have constantly caused misfortune among poor people to constantly make things like reforms. We think that in itself is what sustains society. Then this the deputy prime minister says that if things like Ukraine war. So if you see these kind of things, like we can prevent things like Ukraine war. Panel, if you don't pick up this object, there is an alternative in today's debate. It is the alternative is prediction. Panel, we think that prediction in itself helps human beings to know, predict what the future literally looks like. So that is the reason why when Russia started doing this whole invasion in Ukraine,
Western countries saw that, oh, there's a possibility that Russia is going to invade Ukraine. That is the reason why they placed in measures in order to solve it, by giving Ukraine ammunition, by constantly allowing members of these European countries to join NATO, like Finland and Sweden. We think that in itself was based on the predictability that or these countries are capable of what? Going to war. That is the reason why we think prediction solves the problem of opening government. We think we are better standard. But then what are you going to get in today's speech? First, it's about human evolution, accountability. Secondly, about climate change and sports. Understand that human evolution is one which has constantly evolved over the years. The reason why human beings evolve is because one, we are constantly making decisions based on the information that we have currently. That information is one which has constantly allowed us to evolve for time memorial. So it means that the moment that you pick up this object, you don't have an incentive to evolve as a human species. We think this in itself is going to be bad because one, you prevent the progressivity of society in itself. We think in principle is bad. But secondly, on accountability, understand that the progress of society is when human beings call upon government to constantly call on things like reform. It means that one, you disincentivize people from actually holding government accountable, because when you take up this object, you see your future. When you see your future, you'll be like, oh, everything is going to be all right. So therefore, I don't need to even complain. I don't even literally need to demonstrate on the street. We think this in itself disincentivize individuals from actually holding government accountable for things which really happen. Then on climate change, we think that one, the reason why even we are having the summit in Egypt is because one, we want to constantly make decisions in order to curtail things like climate change in our society. So it means that if you pick up the object, you know that, oh, this is how the future will look like. We even cause things like climate change action programs which currently exist in society. We think for the betterment of our society, let these things happen. These things are things which human beings experiences and learn from. That is why my leader tells you that human beings thrive on things like experiences. Those experiences in itself forms those kind of out of government backlashes and even makes implementation policy in order to save our. We think that in itself solves climate change. On sports, the reason why people even go to the stadium to even go and play football and people go and watch is because of the unpredictability of sports. That is to say that human beings go to the stadium not knowing the outcome of the match. So this in itself creates that sense of curiosity. Understand curiosity. That curiosity in itself drives people to go to the pitch and even watch football, etc. This debate is not about sports. That in itself makes sense because it constantly makes human beings curious. The moment you make human beings curious, it's what allows human beings, it makes life worth living. As my leader said in today's debate, we think that itself is good, right? But then, Eziel Johnson, shoot.
To stop knifing your Elo, because Elo says the debate is about just one individual. So you can't extrapolate it to sports. You are knifing your Elo. Stop it.
Panel, we think that the ACG is out of today's debate because we can broaden and narrow the scope in today's debate. If the ball is being picked by one individual, he says that it can cause detrimental change. That's why my framing said that what if Adolf Hitler was the one who caused these kind of changes? We think that not all people deserve to live a good life. We think that the balance of life is where some people suffer, some people also enjoy based on the decisions that they make in life. We think that that in itself is really good. But then the best thing a closing government can say is that what about things that human beings cannot control? What are these things? So should individuals suffer because of those things? No, this is the response to that. We think that, you see, certain things in human civilization is unevictable. That is to say that death is inevitable. You can't escape death. What this means is that in this people's world, you constantly come back because now human beings are not constantly happy. If you look at the object and you see a bright future and you go there, you constantly not be happy, you will not be satisfied, you will have an incentive to do more. This in itself is going to be bad because the ripple effect is now you constantly will harm other people. Understand that the more you make yourself happy, the more other people are going to suffer at the expense of your decisions. We think that in itself in principle is bad, right? But then understand, I'll take OG. Shoot. Oh, yes, time is 1 minute left. Sure. Okay, so what again do you get from our side, right? We say that curiosity in itself is bad, right? Because the moment you become curious about something, you have every incentive to literally change that particular thing. That changing of thing makes human beings selfish. We think that in itself destroys the human structures which exist currently in status quo. Part of the reason why even in religion people say that, oh, we want to go to heaven and we want to do good is because of the unpredictability. That is to say that people don't know the future, so they are doing as much as good as they can so that a creator up there will send them to heaven. That means that in status quo right now, what you then do is that you cause infrastructures like religion to not make sense. We think this in itself is going to cause that chaotic, we believe in itself is bad. What's in today's debate? First, we stay on climate change. We want human beings to evolve on that, on sports. I've shown you why human civilization is good. I've shown you why accountability, and I've shown you why it's what prediction. If you want to see the future, do a certain form of prediction. And I've shown you why human failure is good. Ever be proud to propose, we win or out.
This house thanks the Deputy Leader of Opposition for his speech and welcomes the closing out of the debate, starting with the member of government. Here.
Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So every POI would be in the text space. If I don't take you, mascot will take you. I just want to focus on extensions. But if I don't take you, mascot will take you. So don't worry. Please don't badger. Yes. If I'm audible, then starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So, Mr. Speaker, after DLO successfully knives LO, OO is out of the debate. But secondly, this debate will begin in the closing half because OG does a very terrible job in terms of framing. And that's why OO can run such like lazy arguments. Let's have the debate proper then. That's what we do with OO properly. Notice that not all these household motions are policy motions. Debates have evolved. This is a classical type 2 actor motion, and we have to interrogate the debate from the perspective and incentive of the individual or acting from what's that for closing government and why we win this debate. It's important we realize the context within which we're having the debate. Info slide never gives a time certain, even though this sounds like a fictional debate. It means the default setting of this debate should be in the 21st century in which we are living now, because that is where we are having the debate. Notice that human existence itself is a total model of a plethora of uncertainties that even stems from the basic parthenogenesis of the existence of humans. This is simply evident by how humans do not consent to this world, and they are born out of uncertainty and also born into an uncertainty where their allocation into wealth, poverty, or all other factions and class of life are controlled by a highly randomized lottery of birth. As if that is not enough, it is also filled with a whole lot of uncertainties that are evident in the lives of humans, as they cannot know or predict the future and have to perpetually subjugate themselves to this double form of torture that they did not consent to in every single day of their life. This is huge double jeopardy, and that is what the 21st century human has always sought to counteract this. The 21st century human has constantly gravitated from the primitive ideas that OO preaches to you that, oh, let's stay in the natural order of uncertainties, to a world where they can now control their lives and limit the extent of uncertainties and randomization that exists in their life. That is why there have been things like plastic surgery, gender reassignments, gene editing, and all those things being popularized to limit the extent of randomization that exists in their life. More so, these are becoming normative and self-proselytizing narratives in the 21st century, which means that this is not is something that is normalized and people opt in to do. This attacks and frames two things in this debate. First off, the incentive for the individual to pick up this up and do this. But secondly, the capacity and the feasibility of the individual to pick this and do that within that instances. What then is the first extension after this robust set of setup within this debate? The philosophical reasoning behind why this person should take this up in the first place. So we think that nature cheats humanity, given that we do not consent to be born, where to be born, etc., different IQ levels, and etc. It means that the vast majority of our lives is predetermined. This means that our true identities are something we cannot have control over, and hence our agency is limited. What the magical orb does is that it gives you foresight to assess your true self and identity. Why is this good? because the idea of human existence itself is premised on self-actualization, and self-actualization is premised on you maximizing your preferences to gain utilities. Inherent in the idea of utilitarianism is for individuals to maximize pleasure and reduce pain. Owing to the huge uncertainty and randomization that exists, humans always use themselves as experiments, and there is a less chance for them to reduce pain and maximize pleasure. But secondly, the mere fear, terror, fright, and dilemma that comes from always pondering and thinking about your uncertainties is a huge psychological pain and burden that limits your utilitarian spectrum of happiness. Thirdly, with humanitarianism itself is preference specific too, which means that you must know your true identities to know your true preferences. Owing to the huge uncertainties, tainting and creating pseudo identities for these individuals, we cannot really then find our true preferences in order to find utilitarianism to maximize self-actualization. But fourthly, even if they prove self-actualization in their whole, what we've been able to prove with our first extension is that we get self-actualization that is faster, better, and heightened. It means that we win this debate on the intensity of impact and self-actualization that we get from this for this individual. We think is better. Why is self-actualization better than to this individual? Because that is the only way the person can maximize his human agency, and that's the core basis for human existence itself. We win this debate. But secondly, the second extension is going to engage the best case and the worst case, because OG is very, very lazy in the debate and they just assume that everything will go well. What is the best case? That the person gets to know the outcome and knows that the future is good for him. Why is this good? We think that as humans, especially in the 21st century, there's limited resources for individuals owing to the seemingly huge population, and there also being a lot of competing factors that coerces us into certain things like jobs, marriage, etc., especially like friends and families, etc. This means that we usually invest in things insofar as it is like seeming good within the vast majority of people, and we do not actually know whether it's going to end up being what will be a future or what we plan for in the vast majority of instances. What this technology does is that it gives you a mechanism to channel your resources efficiently, owing to the scarcity that exists within the 21st century for this human, and this individual is just entitled to a peanut of that scarce resources, which means that they have to use it well. This streamlining means that you maximize the efficiency for this person. But what is the worst case? That the person gets to see that his future is bad. Why is this too good? We think that it is still better because in status quo, the people blame themselves when they fail. Some become depressed and even tend to opt into things like suicide because they feel they are culpable for terrible things that happens in their lives. This means that when they have access to this orb, they are able to know that what happened to them was something that nature planned or was determined within that instances by what OG says. Why is this important? It means that one, you do not antagonize others unfairly for your failures. But secondly, you get to understand your failures, which means that you are not open to things like exploitative systems like religion and all those stuff, which want to exploit your woes to and all those stuff. But you do not opt into things like suicide because you understand the nature and the reason why the future in of itself is becoming bad within that instances, which means that you preserve the life of that person. Notice that self-actualization, every single thing is based on the preservation of the life of the individual. We're able to tell you that even in the worst case, person has a bad future, you're able to preserve the life of the person within that instances, and the person hope to self-actualize in that instances. On all fronts, closing government wins this debate.
Yeah. This house thanks the member of government for his speech and welcomes the member of opposition to start the case for closing opposition.
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, so is it audible enough? Because I've been getting complaints that I'm not being loud enough. I'm trying not to scream, otherwise my roommate will.
You are loud
enough. I can hear you.
Perfect. Here to CG. Let me just get a timer. Let's also pick up Omnisphere. Get a timer. For your eyes, put them in the text space, but I highly doubt I'll take. But Raymond will take the POIs. That was a good speed. So hey, all right. Yeah, POIs in the text space. Probably will take OG for the longer diagonal. Otherwise, if I don't, Raymond will take them. I want to start my speech. Just hold on. All right, let's do this. I'm going to start my speech in 3, 2, 1, go. I'm so happy the debate began from CG because it would have been unrealistic to have a quarterfinal, which is like shit. But first of all, what I'm going to do for you in this speech is I'm going to run like a twofold case. I'm going to show you the best and worst case scenario on both sides and show you why we from CO are definitely going to win this debate. You know why it's going to, first of all, like why we're going to win this debate. What am I going to do? I'm going to analyze to you the best case scenario government and show you why that the best case scenario is actually bad for human beings in of itself. But second, I'm going to show you why the best case scenario for side CO, which is normal life, which is normal status quo, is the very, very, very best for anyone. From CG, this is what we get. We get the fact that life is bad. We get it, life is horrible. But we think within that horribleness of life, we think that is what makes life life, and I'll be able to explain. Or tells you life is life. We're going to explain to you and give you structural reasons as to why life is life and why those problems inherently are good. And foremost, when you like, and this most of this was the best case scenario. There's this particular change aspect that we look about in the Omnisphere. Idea that like when you know your future, if you like do something to change it, you know, even your future changes and whatever. That's an important aspect to look at. Look at it, and that's why we wouldn't pick this Omnisphere. So that's just inherently that is within the Omnisphere becomes so problematic in the long run. That's in terms of self-actualization of this individual. To say what happens because you can constantly change your future by changing particular things that you do may lead to that future. We think what problems occur there. We think one, it's general perception. Human beings are always going to try to avoid that pain. This is Jeremy Bentham, utilitarianism. I know like CG will believe this in terms of the fact to minimize pain and maximize pleasure. It's true. Human beings are inherently always going to like minimize pain. That's going to be like pain. Why is this problematic? You think the fact that it keeps changing inherently makes your life fucking miserable. Because when fuck, I paused my time.
Yes, James.
Yeah?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? I pause your time here.
I can hear you.
I can hear you, but I don't know. It's not very distinct. Like I'm finding it hard to listen to what you are saying, but I can hear that you're speaking. So I don't know. Maybe
My God. So like, does that mean I need to begin? Because I can switch devices. Let me just switch.
I mean, if the mic is better, go for it. I'll give you time.
Let me just switch devices. Sorry for that.
Like start again.
I'm saying hit this now. Code.
Oh, Raymond, the Zimbabwean nightmare. That's what I'm talking to. I can hear him. His voice is not low. Probably it's your network.
Guys, is this good? Is this good?
Oh, his voice was low here too.
Is this good, guys? I've switched devices. Is this good?
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
All right. It's loud enough. You can hear me, you know?
Yeah, I can hear you and I know.
All right.
Okay.
So the voice was super low. You should have said something in the beginning.
Continue your speech. Time is going.
So should I begin again or I resume from where I stopped?
No, begin again. Start again.
All right. Let me just reset my timers too. Man, all the enthusiasm I began with thrown out the drain. If I say shit now, here is this timer. Reset. Yeah. All right. We didn't hear anything. I said, screw you, Raymond. One last check. Am I audible? Is this loud enough? This house would pick up the Omnisphere.
Loud enough.
All right, perfect. So, and again in 3, 2, 1, go. The panel, I'm starting again. Why? We believe the debate has become closing out. What I'm going to do is run a twofold case. I'm going to decide to show you why the best case scenario of side like government, especially CG, doesn't pan out, and show you why the best case scenario from side CO is way better. We agree with CG. We think life can be a bit hard, but we think within that hardness, life becomes more fruitful. You know, you get better self-actualization from that hardness that life gives you inherently, and we think it is something that we stand short from side closing opposition. But what I was explaining before was the change aspect in the Omnisphere. No one talks about this in the debate. I think the Omnisphere changes. So, for example, if you, like, let's say if you're going to get a stomach problem from eating rice, if you don't eat rice, your future then changes. We think that's an important aspect that comes from the Omnisphere. Why is this aspect important, and why do we think we're going to ride on it? One, we think this aspect takes into the account that one can change their particular futures, and we think what happens here is that they don't change their future, they just prolong it, But the idea is that they keep changing, your future changes, the foresights keep changing. Why do we think this is problematic? We think one concession: human beings are always going to pick pleasure over pain. That is to say, in many of the cases, or 99% at the end of the day, everyone's going to try to switch their future if they see something bad. Why is this harmful? It creates a lot of misery in someone's life. That is to say, people are so miserable, or the person wielding the Omnisphere is so miserable, trying to solve and trying to change their future, even though it's something small or something harmful, because they don't want, or because human beings inherently are tuned to avoid pain and maximize pleasure. They're always going to try to remove the pains and the harms in their future. This is problematic because you have so much misery because you want to avoid problems. Why is this problematic? Your quality of life decreases. You don't have any form of self-actualization. Why? You're in constant fear, constant need to change your future to ensure you don't have any pain in it. We think that is inherently harmful to the way of living, to the quality of living of someone. Why? Because they constantly live in fear. I said put it in the text space. Because of constant fear, we think that becomes so problematic. Because at the end of the day, you get less self-actualization because you're miserable. You're so hooked on the fact that you don't want this bad thing to happen that you get so miserable. We think that in of itself is so problematic in the long run. But secondly, we think even this idea of overall happiness, we think even at the point in time where you have overall happiness, and this is the second aspect of this argument, even when you have overall happiness, there is a problem. Because you're happy that things are going to happen well in the future, your intention to make sure they happen well. That is to say, you're in constant fear of, I hope I don't make the wrong move and my future changes. I hope I don't make the wrong move and my future changes. You see, that constant fear, even when you're about to receive greater happiness, because your future has told you that, is important. Why? People are always perplexed to receive those consequences. This is why all government things are consequential, and that's why we're going to lose the debate. Understand? We think even at a point in time where you're overly happy because something is going to happen at the end, your intention to ensure nothing stops it. That is to say, that tension which you're on to ensure that the goodness happens is also problematic. It doesn't make your life any better. It makes your life so harmful in the long run. Why is this important aspect important? Why should you consider this? It's an important aspect because on all levels, it shows you that the self-actualization you get from CG never happens. That is to say, even if you have the best case scenario on government teams, they're still going to be unhappy. Why? They are miserable to ensure they don't have harms, and CG can't just black this because they concede to the utilitarian principle of pain and pleasure. But secondly, you need to understand that even in terms of when you have happiness coming for you at the end of the day, that life inherently is harmful for you. Why? Your intention, you don't want to make a wrong move. And if the slightest move, your life becomes miserable. The third aspect to this idea is this: the fact that it is rooted into one person. You only attach to events that happen to you is an important aspect. Why is this important? Because at the end of the day, because it's limited to your own life, you as a person, what happens in your life, it becomes problematic. Why? You can't help change the future of your companions or your loved ones. And even in the slight case scenario you don't change their future. You just prolong it into happening. Why is that problematic? When unfortunate events happen, you're left traumatized because you could never help them, even when you have this Omnisphere. We think that becomes problematic. We think on all aspects it destroys your ability to self-actualization. The flip side of it, why our side is better. We think a world where there's a lot of unpredictability is a far, far better world. Why? We think the constant problems people face day in, day out make them who they are. They build their character, they build their identity. We think that is important. We think at the end of the day, when you know the future and you're trying to avoid problems, you don't have any identity because you don't have things that make you who you are. We think for one's uncertainties that happen and the problems you face as you go in life are so damn important. Because at the end of the day, you build character At the end of the day, if it wasn't for the fact that Eziel and who and Xçott were all debating and had all these thoughts that they were facing, it's what made them better today. We think that is an important aspect. We think the important aspect of facing your uncertainty and problems makes it better. At the end of the day, if we lose this round, we shall still be better people and we shall take that thing forward. The other thing we disagree with our opening, because we think our opening has a lot, and Raymond will weigh this, is on the idea of hope. We think a world where you have this Omnisphere, there is less hope. Why? There is more tension, and I'll explain. There is no hope, you're always in tension. Why do you think hope is an important aspect? We think the uncertainty and unpredictability forces human beings to inherently have hope as they move on in life. Why is that hope important? That is to say, even when they face unfortunate circumstances, they get back up on their feet and keep going. When you have the Omnisphere and something bad happens to you, you don't have any fucking hope because you can see your future, but you still fucked up. We think that becomes harmful for you. You don't feel factualized. We think the aspect of hope is better in our side. Even when you put it on magnitudes, we have more hope on our side, meaning we can take most of the benefits on hope. We say those uncertainty and unpredictability not only help you gain character in terms of solving problems, but also in terms of human evolution. The fact that we don't know what may happen and it's so unpredictable helps us evolve as human beings and get a higher eudaimonia, the way Aristotle said. We get that eudaimonia because we keep learning from those problems as we solve them. As I conclude, one, we think unpredictability and uncertainty of life is so important. I've explained it to you. In the aspect of problems, the aspect of evolution, and the aspect of improving your standard of living because you keep on growing, you keep on getting better identity. Overall, you get better self-actualization on our side. Proud to be CO. Damn. I'm sorry I didn't take the PI. Raymond will take it.
Yes, you are. You are.
Perfect. So I yeah, sure. I am going to take POIs in the text space. I am going to be looking at the text space. For no reason should you unmute. For no reason. I would definitely try to engage opening opposition, make the debate. Yeah, so that's it. I'm going to start. How is the timer going? Will I be timed on the text space? Because I apparently can't time myself here.
Me and Raymond are keeping times. Raymond is timing. I'm also timing here. You can also time personally, but we'll tell you when it's 1 minute and when your time is over. I think Eziel wants to time you.
Yeah, Johnson, you can time me in DM because I'm using our DM. So starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. The very first thing I'm going to do in this debate is to take the opening half out, because this is the problem. And I'm still annoyed that closing opposition lost a chance at redemption. We gave them to have a meaningful conversation. Listen, our ability to make certain decisions as humans are influenced by a lot of societal conditioning, which guides us towards making those decisions. Contexts are very important for debates, because when you debate in an open vacuum, you can run a lot of unreasonable arguments. This is what kills opening opposition. And this is the idea. Johnson created a perfect context for this debate, because we can't have it in an open vacuum. And that is interrogating what exactly the 21st century human is. Because the debate is about a decision that is going to be taken by an individual. Opening opposition and opening government failed to give you this particular context. And they were running a lot of different arguments, different ways, and there was no direct impact. Closing opposition comes up and does not engage the context whatsoever. The only thing they do is to end up talking about a whole lot of things that I'm going to concede to in this debate. Closing government easily wins this debate, but I'm going to make the work very simple. The opening half is out, because it is only with the context that Johnson gives you that you can feel a little bit of an impact that opening government talks about. So all their arguments, you can only understand that they have a lot of impact when you recognize the context that Johnson gives you. Let me take out the most irrelevant team. Deputy leader of opposition, not opening opposition. because there's a huge disparity in the two. Unless there is a different info slide that deputy leader of opposition has. Because deputy leader of opposition collectivizes actions in the debate, which we don't think is what it is. The debate is about an action of a single individual, not an action of a football sports team or an action of a climate group activist. We don't think that makes any sense. So almost all the things he says are totally irrelevant. But I'm going to engage directly. First, they say curiosity is bad because life makes more sense with the predictability, the unpredictability that exists. They also say humans are selfish. We concede all these things are true, right? Because humans are selfish. We agree. The predictability or the unpredictability that exists in life guides individuals towards making certain decisions. But in the same way, it makes us to constantly live with the idea of very little control. This is this context, right? Currently, in status quo, there's a huge attempt by capitalists, rich people, ideally, to change the constant narrative of humans to counteract the forces of lottery of birth that have constantly put us in positions where we have no control over our life. That is why currently you can change your sex. If you want to identify as a woman, you have transformations. All these things are existing. This tells you that there is a conscious existence in society to deliberately twerk and counteract the human life that is affected by lottery of birth. We think pari passu, it is in the same line of argumentation that justifies our claim. This means that when you realize the context that this exists, it means that this individual is more likely going to make that decision in that particular way and in that particular manner. This is what DLO says. Not everyone deserves a good life. We think that's shitty. If everyone can get a good life by trying out using the Omnisphere, we are very, very happy to allow everybody achieve individual happiness. But more importantly, they say in DLO's speech that someone like Adolf Hitler would probably have made things worse if he had all those type of things, or trying to give you all those type of analogy. I'll take you, chill. Adolf Hitler never had a certain way to get power. That is why he used all other dubious means in order to get power. Even if he had the orb, we think he could subconsciously change his actions to reach the best way at which he could have gained power. Hitler would never have opted in for killing the Jews and going for World War II because the orb would have told him that you are going to die or you are going to lose the World War II, because he was very, very selfish. He would have definitely found a better way. So we don't even think that analogy in any way can win the debate for opening opposition, right? But secondly, is that all the analysis they talk about religion, sports, climate change, and how that unpredictability is more likely going to harm these institutions, we think it does not exist in that particular way, because the information you're getting is about how your life could be better. It does not necessarily transform into collective harms or collective actions of individuals. Opening opposition. Opening opposition. 3, 2, 1. I hope I'm audible. This is why nobody said anything. Let's engage closing up. So closing up, someone confirm. Okay, great. Closing opposition says that humans would always want to maximize pleasure, right? And they engage the worst case scenario that our lives are going to be made miserable when you understand. See, the info slide tells you that when you consciously change your actions based on the information you get from the orb, it updates and reflects the new outcome of the owner's actions. It means there is a cycle that is going to exist. The existence of that cycle automatically means that your life is not as fucked as closing opposition wants us to understand. Because that miserable life that you are going to see means that when you consciously decide to change your action, there is a conscious shift with the future of your life. These guys should not debate with a different info slide, because that information deliberately tells us that the cycle would continue to So you cannot ridiculously shift that debate to the subconscious and involuntary actions that closing opposition is about, right? But lastly, even if it changes, even if the outcome becomes ridiculously different, right? At least you get to see and it prompts you to act in a certain way to reach your goal. Your world in opposition is filled with so much uncertainty, which is worse off because humans are going to spend a whole lot of time in dilemma of uncertainty. What then wins this debate for us from closing government? A lot of beautiful argumentations you get from Johnson, right? Johnson establishes the idea of the philosophical reason of human beings, right? The fact that humans constantly live with the idea of how nature perpetually cheats us, redistributes talents, gifts in a very randomized way. And that is why someone can be born as Elon Musk's son, but you are there. You are going to be born by a very poor man living in your country. That idea prompts individuals to always sought means to change their status. But what we also tell you is that at the end of the day, because humans spend a lot of time, a lot of resources into actions that are going to bring out worse decisions for them, because people pay a lot of money to go to school and become a medical doctor, but something happens and their life is fucked. When you can see the outcome of your life by the orb and you consciously choose to change your actions to twerk that future, we are very happy to allow that as long as it is in your best interest to make that decision. At least there have not been any conversation about the rationality of the actor to an extent. We assume he potentially has a control to do that. We are happy to win this debate from closing government.
This house thanks the government whip for its speech and welcomes the opposition whip to round up the debate for everybody. Raymond, mute your mic. Opposition whip, you are up. Jefferson, also mute your mic. Are you opposition? Okay, thank you. Who is opposition whip now? Oh, you are the opposition whip. No, you are not audible at all. No, Raymond, you are not. You are not audible. That's if you can hear me, Sha.
Cool. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
All right, cool. So I'm definitely going to take a POI from OG because they need a chance of redemption as I had. Anyways, yeah, P was checking the text space, James time there also. I'm going to start in the next 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. So, speaker, quickly let's just show you how we rank above our opening. From Deputy Leader of Opposition, he speaks about a lot of alternatives. One being the idea of predictions, which is ultimately what government's board is advocating for. So we don't really think within that you're more likely going to gain any form of positive matter within what the debate is all about. But secondly, he goes furthermore to collectivize the same type of action, not just from an individualistic point of view, which then contradicts what literally came from their leader of opposition when he was speaking about how certain actions are more likely going to exist. Thirdly, he speaks about how not everyone deserves a better future, and he speaks about how some deserve that future. This is more likely conceding to what opening government and closing government were saying within their own arguments when he speaks about how some deserves that, and he takes literally the analysis and he says some are what we're advocating for. We don't really think that's where the debate was more likely about. James speaks to you about 3 extensions. Firstly, the uncertainty that exists within life. Secondly, how that's more likely going to build identities and you bet greater self-actualization. Thirdly, the philosophical aspect of how life is most likely going to look like. A whole lot of assumptions came from opening government, which was most likely impacted in closing government's hold. So that is what I'm going to engage. Let's take out opening government quickly. They speak about how the human mind have a different aspect of how you need to adverse unnecessary suffering, etc., etc. We don't really get sufficient analysis of how you're more likely going to engage, because at a point in time, when you see different actions being portrayed within this certain type of globe, you're always going to be trying to literally have an idea of how you want to change those actions. The info slide clearly tells you that the type of actions that you're going to respond to are the actions that are literally going to give you a new outcome. This outcome can literally change over and over and over again. And this is where closing government speaks about a cycle. This is the cycle that James was literally telling you, that you then become miserable because you might not be able to maintain the type of actions that you literally want to ensure that you get that positive result, to have a certain identity, to have a certain actualization within it. You then become miserable within you wanting to change that. But secondly, the type of endless cycle that then becomes when you want to change certain actions, it then becomes now in void. It then becomes literally useless. We don't really think you have that necessary idea to understand how you're able to maintain certain type of actions that you're going to see and how you're able to literally preserve them, etc., etc. This is exactly why life in itself then becomes beautiful, because you want to create happiness and you want to create pleasure within a utilitarian principle, like closing government says, and what opening government says, change for the better. We think when you create only one aspect of your life, you don't build who you are. The philosophical aspect that exists within life is that the nature of life is characterized through pain, through unpredictable pain, through unpredictable happiness. This is the reason that you can literally have maximum actualization, knowing that you're going to be having a distinction or having a first within this found won't make you happy at all. At a point in time when it then becomes a surprise, is something that is going to boost your actualization. Understanding the type of pain when you don't get the same type of benefits literally means in the long run, you can literally work for a better future. Something that you're not going to be trying to imitate what you've seen through a magical globe or something. We think what you then build with the mixture of that pain and with the mixture of that hate, as James already told you, with the uncertainty that exists within life, is something that then creates a form of identity. As opening closing government would like to say it. Why do we think identity is not most likely going to be maximized within their word? Because the imitations of how you want to create certain actions, how you want to replicate certain actions, won't give you that maximum amplitude of how you're more likely going to be portraying who you are and what you're supposed to be, because what you're now doing is just an imitation, which is more likely going to change those actions. The behavior of changing those actions is the behavior of how you're changing your own identity, you're changing your own culture. When life exists with hope, when philosophical mindset exists within a form of uncertainty and within a form of unpredictability, we think you're more likely going to have a better idea in terms of how you can get that actual thing that they want to preach for, or that better identity that they want to preach for, or they change for a better world, which comes from opening government. POI. OG.
Note that the nature of the orb would be that it would be able to predict such unhappiness that you claim would be from using the orb. So if a person is using this orb, they'll be able to see that if they continuously use this orb, they'll be unhappy. Therefore, they'll be able to choose whether or not and how much to use the orb. They'll be able to choose whether to continue using the orb and and get their goals and be unhappy, or they use the orb less and then they maintain their happiness that would have been taken away by continuously using the orb. So therefore, that eradicates a very important part of your
finish contradict. Okay, I think you necessarily need to pick a side, because those are two sides that you're trying to predict. Picking the orb or you leaving the orb means that if you're leaving the orb, you're supporting our side. Picking the orb is what your side. And even if you're going to maintain a world where you no longer want to pick the orb anymore, it means that your word then becomes now in void. The type of happiness that had a lot of assumptions within it, which you didn't analyze at all, then becomes literally useless. So we don't think that can literally become an alternative. Pick a side. So, Speaker, what have we shown to you specifically? Why then does this debate become a closing after? The first thing here that you need to understand is that opening government does not set up any form of premises that is more likely going to like have any form of weight to the debate, or contradicts the motion firstly, and they contradict themselves. Closing argument talks to you about gives you the context of where this debate is most likely going to exist and how this orb is most likely going to work within an individualistic point of view. How then do we outweigh them within our world? We show you exactly within our worst case scenario how it's most likely going to defeat their best case scenario. Their best case scenario is a never-ending cycle of maintaining certain actions that you want to implicate. Within our worst case scenario, we still have pain and hate being a mixture to create your form of identity and to create a form of culture. The philosophical aspect of why life was created in the first place is still in our world. The uncertainty and the predictability is what creates a future within hope in itself, which makes it beautiful in maximizing actualization. We are proud.
Yeah, this house thanks the opposition for his speech. Thanks all the speakers for showing up and speaking well in this house. I invite the rest of my panelists to the adjudication room so we can deliberate who goes.
It's all the best.
Make you know they shall like it. I don't want nobody to give my matter like. For this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's plenty of but then it's you. Party, as I did not think I do, start to move like you smoke a la cool. Just they bounce with the groove, look how they do. If you lose God, then go bounce with your boo. I can vouch for my crew, I'm telling you. And do they do lifestyle of a crew? Make you dance, look they look, then go they look, then go they look. And say if it's not enough, if I do 99 good, it go remain one. Fucking up, but I can buy you a new AP, straight from major land. Baby, trabaye, make you know they shall like it. I don't want nobody to give my matter like. For this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's been too Ramadan, don't want to feel nothing at all. Be like Ojuju Calabar, give me moral like I be bouncer. Mon paragon, take me higher, don't want to land. Until now I don't understand me why no matter what I do, it's not enough. If I do 99 good, it go remain one. Don't know how to show you my love without fucking up. But I am faded. Make you know they shall lie. I don't want nobody to give my matter like. For this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. Baby, trabaye, make you know they shall lie. I don't want nobody to give my matter like. Everyday party, Trabalhei, make you no deixa like I don't want nobody to keep my matter like. For this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's been too but then it's you. Party, as I did not take my do, start to move like you smoke a lago, just they bounce with the groove. Look at it do. If you lose God, then go bounce with your boo. I can vouch for my crew. I'm telling you, then to they do lifestyle of a crew. Make you dance to the look, then go the look, then go the look. I say if it's not enough, if I do 99 good, it go remain one. Don't know how to show you my love without fucking up, but I can buy you a new baby, straight from made you love. God, baby, trabalhei, make you know they shine like it. I don't want nobody to keep my matter gay. Like for this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's been too but then it's you. Everyday party. Do me like I take tramadol. Don't want to feel nothing at all. You like Okuku Calabar. Give me moral like I be bouncer. Moon paragon. Take me high, I don't want to land. Until now I don't understand the why. No matter what I do, it's not enough. If I do 99 good, it go remain one. Don't know how to show you my love without fucking up. But like I'm faded, I just dey shake it. Get it label. Baby, trabalhei, make you know they shalaye. I don't want nobody to keep my matter gay. Like for this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. Baby, trabalhei, make you know they shalaye. I don't want nobody to keep my matter gay. Like for this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's been too but then it's you. Everyday party. Trabalhei, make you know they shine like it. I don't want nobody to keep my matter gay. Like for this life I day, I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days, I want to spend them on enjoyment. It's been too but then it's you. Party. As I did not take my do, start to move like you smoke a lago, just they bounce with the groove. Look at it do. If you lose God, then go bounce with your boo. I can vouch for my crew. I'm telling you, then to they do lifestyle of a crew. Make you dance to the look, then go the look, then go the look. I say if it's not enough, if I do 99 good. the party. Do me like I take tramadol. Don't want to feel nothing at all. Be like Ojuju Calabar. Give me moral like I be bouncer. Mon paragon. Take me higher, don't want to land. Until now I don't understand the why. No matter what I do, it's not enough. If I do 99 to be going, don't know how to show you my love without fucking up. Like
Can you guys hear Raymond and Grace?
I don't want nobody to give my matter like for this life I day. I want to be celebrated. Don't wanna waste my days. I want to spend them on